For my applied medical project, I will be going over the codes that dictate construction in the state of California. These codes serve many purposes, but the main features are to keep California's blocks organized, create a template for structurally sound structures, and to ensure that the buildings constructed remain stable and safe for as long as possible. These codes can be distinguished by 3 different forms of construction, in addition to 3 key components of these forms, which are buildings, infrastructure, and industrial. The first form of construction would be heavy civil, which includes but is not limited to repairing and demolishing structures like bridges, roads, dams, railways, subways, piers, harbors, tunnels, sewer and irrigation systems, and any forms of energy plants. Since so many different forms of infrastructure exist within heavy civil construction, many construction companies are required to abide by a number of different codes in order to maintain construction contract standards. These codes are implemented by Caltrans, or the California Department of Transportation. Their mission statement is to provide a safe, sustainable, integrated, and effective transportation system to enhance California's economy and livability. The Caltrans Safety Manual outlines the duties and responsibilities authorities on construction sites must adhere to in order to protect employees from immediate hazards and dangerous conditions which could result in a workplace injury. Other codes and regulations dictate the specifications of things like street signs, proper structural measurements, and minimum requirements involving structural integrity. One common example that we experience every day would be the minimum width requirement for a driving lane. For a freeway, Caltrans uses a 12-foot standard, while residential streets are only required to have a width of about 7 feet. It is also important that codes are strictly followed so that damages will be minimal in events like earthquakes and major meteorological disasters like floods or hurricanes. You might be wondering who is in charge of building, demolishing, and maintaining heavy civil projects. This varies based on regions, states, and countries, but the simplest answer would be state and local government or government-created agencies. The second form of construction is residential, which is the business of building individual and multifamily dwellings. If you need an example, just think about the place that you literally woke up in this morning. Residential buildings can also include single units, standard houses, duplexes, quadplexes, apartments, and condominiums. Residential construction companies must abide by International Building Codes, or otherwise known as I-Codes. The regulations that exist in the I-Codes are in place to ensure that a building is safe for inhabitants. One example that almost exclusively exists within residential construction would be requirements for a masonry fireplace and chimney. Specific requirements must be met during construction regarding the size of chimney walls in order to be deemed as safe for living. While this is an obscure example of the I-Codes, I will go into greater detail when discussing the final form of construction, because while residential may seem like it has many moving parts, it cannot begin to compare to the complexities that come with tackling the final form of construction. Commercial construction can include office buildings, warehouses, or retail buildings. So everything from a Dunkin' Donuts to Disneyland can be categorized as a commercial establishment. This can also include churches and college campuses. And don't forget beautiful establishments like the many fabulous applied medical office spaces and facilities. It is in these facilities that products are workshopped, manufactured, and distributed to hospitals around the globe. All commercial construction of applied medical buildings is also done in-house, which means Applied Medical is responsible for abiding by the many international building codes that I briefly touched on before. So many different regulations are necessary to create a structurally sound, well-functioning building, which makes it crucial for construction companies to refrain from cutting corners. While residential and commercial construction both abide by the international building codes, the key difference is that commercial is far more complex and has a much larger scale. Because while a normal suburban home probably has around 3 bathrooms, A corporate office could potentially have over 100. Safety measures like number of manual fire alarms and safety sprinklers that must be in buildings is dependent on the maximum capacity of said building. Although, not everything can be done by one company, and in all big construction projects, subcontractors have specific jobs in order to complete a structure. One extremely important component that must be addressed before construction can even begin is testing the integrity of the foundation. GMU Geotechnical Incorporated is a company located in Orange County that specifically tests soil within a foundation of a lot to make sure it is safe to construct on. This is crucially important work because it can distinguish a building from looking one of two ways, like this or like this. This example puts into perspective the kind of responsibilities construction companies have in following codes religiously in order to keep all parties involved safe. When international building codes and Caltrans codes are respected, heavy civil, residential, and commercial construction can be completed safely and effectively. Thank you for watching my video presentation on the building blocks of construction.